watching with great curiosity each new chore and even trying to lend his help. He'd often stick his tiny snout so close to what one of them was doing he'd almost get conked on the nose with whatever tool they were using, until Dove would say something like, "Do you mind, sir?" Or Ada would say something like, "It's hard enough to weed without you licking my ear." The second half of most days was the time Ada and Dove would each do their own work, and Barley would divide his time being alongside one or the other of them throughout the rest of the day, each day, the 7 happy years he'd lived with them. Today had been water day, so most of the afternoon was spent accompanying Ada as she carried the heavy clay water jugs out of their house and down the path to the well in the middle of the neatly kept dirt road that was shared by all the other little houses in their neighborhood, 5 or 6 in all. Ada was an older woman in her 50s, an old age for a woman in this place and time. She was rather short, and her body was somewhat plump in spots, which Barley liked, because it made her lap so comfortable he'd often hop up on it to watch her sew. Her hair was gray, her skin was soft and a little saggy in places, and her eyes were warm. When she smiled, Barley thought she looked as young and pretty as a little girl. But because she was old, some of her bones were stiff and unsure, so she moved slowly and carefully. Ada was not afraid of the hard work it took to keep a house well run in the 1st century A.D. on a humble street on the outskirts of Roman-occupied Jerusalem. Even if the chore of the day was something strenuous like lugging water jars to the well, as it had been today. Barley had been taught that when accompanying her on this task, he should not walk within the usual petting distance right near Ada's feet. It was fine to stay that close during all other chores, and he would gladly accept the little pats she'd give him every few minutes or so, stopping her cooking or sewing or washing to lean down and give him a quick rub and a "Hi there, you," or "Good boy." But Barley knew he had to take special care on water-carrying days not to be too close when he walked with her. That way, he'd never accidentally trip her as she hauled the heavy, brimming water jars back and forth between the well and their house. It had almost happened once, a few years back, but they escaped with just a cracked jug and with water all over them both, which Dove, when he looked out the window and saw them, found funny. After that day, Barley had been trained to be cautious. He was small enough, between 20 and 25 runty pounds and less than 1.5 feet high, that you could miss seeing him underfoot, though he was agile enough never to get stomped on. Usually Dove only had to correct him once before Barley understood. Barley's affection for Dove made it easy to comply with the few rules that Dove patiently taught him. In all the years they had been together, Ada had never heard a husband raise his voice, a characteristic she attributed to the fact that, in her words, "I married a man whose name rhymes with love." The main rule Ada insisted on was that Barley never bite. "A good dog never bites," she'd said. Barley liked watching Ada and Dove work, but he also understood that dogs have their chores to do just as people do. His job was chasing birds in the yard, even though he was never able to catch any, and being petted and being good company and keeping the people he loved safe by watching over their tiny house and barking to let Ada and Dove know when a visitor came up the narrow path to their door. Of all the little family chores and rituals, it was Dove's job that seemed to Barley the most interesting of all. Dove did wood carvings, intricate little sculptures that were, to all who saw them, nothing short of lovely. That's why Ada disliked it when people in the marketplace called Dove a woodcarver. These little creations were so beautiful that to call Dove a woodcarver would, in the famous words of Ada, be like calling God a worldmonger. Figurines was what he and Ada called them, and once a week on Friday.